Welcome back. Mining is a sector that has connected South Africa to the world for more than a century. Due to mining, the country is a member of different international bodies, from the Commonwealth to most recently the BRICS group of countries. This sector has also defined the socio-economic makeup of our country, our history and our politics. Many international investors make money out of it, and very few communities have seen the benefits, and that's why there are raging debates around mining. It has also produced personalities who are internationally recognized and respected, and one of them is Bernard Swanepoel, the CEO of the Joburg Indaba, who's with me to discuss what else? Mining. Bernard, pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me, Tim.
And you've just finished hosting the Joburg Indaba. This is what, your third, fourth year? I don't know how many years you've been.
I think we've done 6 of them.
6 now?
But certainly in the last 3 years, it has really become a platform for honest and blunt conversations, which we so need in the mining industry.
And this year, what were the key features, key issues for discussion?
Well, it was the sort of after Mining Charter 3 announcement get-together.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of optimism. We have to see this in the context of where we were last year when we had the same conversation. Zwane was around, you know, the charter.
As minister, that is.
As the minister.
Yeah.
I think he's still around, but
Yeah.
then he was our minister.
Yes.
He was you know, there was no dialogue taking place. There was mistrust at a level which made us dysfunctional as stakeholders. Now, here on, the new charter is quite demanding. The industry is reluctantly engaging with how to make it work. But I think Minister Mantas, of course, has brought personal relationships back to the fore. He's one of the industry, he's been in the industry longer than me, and therefore he brought a credibility which changed the whole dynamic of engagement.
Now, the mining charter has been discussed forever. And we're talking about basically the oldest sector in the South African economy, maybe second to agriculture. Well, and trading, I suppose, in the past. But it's a very, very important sector and has got a global dimension, as I said in the intro, and we'll look at the brief history of it. I mean, it defined
Exactly.
the role of South Africa in the world, made the country a global country already in the 1800s.
Yeah, and you and I sit here on top of Igoli. I mean, a success story if you've ever seen one.
Yes.
Now we can hate or like Joburg, but Joburg exists because of gold mining of 120 years ago.
Yes.
And so I think it's absolutely correct that all our issues, good and bad, somewhere link back into mining. And that imposes a huge responsibility on us as an industry. I would claim we are the most transformed sector of the South African economy by the metrics of black economic empowerment, by the metrics of local procurement, by the metrics of advancing of black people into positions previously reserved for white people. But we should actually be continue to be the leading light. You know, we need to continue to transform.
But show me the beef then. I mean, the sector you say from where you're sitting is the most transformed. Somebody who's not involved and looking at it from a distance and reading the news reports will think, well, if you want to know about the worst of the sectors in South Africa, take a look at mining. And you say it is the most transformed and maybe progressive of the sectors. Tell me, show me.
So can we move post-truth? So let's put facts back on the table.
Yes.
So the mining industry have generated very successful empowerment stories. Individuals like Patrice Motsepe, Sipho Nkosi, but our discussion is how do we take ourselves from 26% black ownership of such an important sector of the economy to 30%. There's no other sector having that conversation. Not one. So I would put that on the table as a factual statement.
Yeah, but you know, people will differ with you and say 26% of the mining
no,
is...
perhaps it should be 40, 50. We can differ on that. I'm talking about...
It's not the number.
Yeah.
That they would not believe, many people, that 26% of mining is owned by black people.
And these are obviously audited and signed off by the companies and the government. Remember, one of the disputes in the past was the numbers. I think the reason we can move forward is I think the DMR and Minerals Council, as the Chamber of Mines call themselves now agree on the definition and therefore the measurements. You know, let me give you an anecdotal example. At this year's Joburg Indaba, over half of the panelists were no longer white men. Now, that's not where we should be, but if you go 10 years back, we would have struggled to have 10% diversity on, amongst the top 100 people who address a conference like that. We were at way over 50%. If you go to the actual advancement of black people into senior management, I mean, most of our CEOs, well, I'm comfortably stating that most of our boards are transformed to the point where more black people sit on the boards than white people. So this is real. We are struggling as an industry to catch up with the demographics of our country, especially when it comes to women. Remember, 20 years ago, women were not allowed to work in mines. So we started with 0. Now, is 17 or 20 or 23% good enough? No, but it's damn good progress. So I think as an industry, we would continuously say, look how much progress we've made, and society will say, but we're not happy yet. I actually think that can be a healthy dynamic to drive transformation if we talk to each other.
Now, mining is politically charged because of its history, and you are saying it is transformed, but why does it take long for South Africans to appreciate the role and the transformation that you say has already taken place or is taking place in the sector?
I think the cyclical nature of mining will always add an interesting dimension. There are times when mines make so much money that everybody thinks we can have more.
Yes.
But that doesn't last. And so the dilemma in mining is, the iron ore price goes up. Kumba makes a lot of money. All the employees get 600,000 Rand bonuses. But the year after that, the iron ore price have dropped. So I think this feast or famine nature of mining, of course, is a contributing confusion. There are times when it looks like everybody can make money out of coal mining. I do think the minerals of the country belong to the people. And in there is an implication that all the benefits must come to the people. And that's problematic in the context of the funders, the people who bring the capital should have some say, the people who provide debt should have some say. Obviously, employees stand right in the front of the queue of people who benefit. And I do think, again, back onto the topic of transformation, there's no other sector in our economy where the debates and discussions is about the 12,500 Rand minimum wage. It's double the country's average,
wage,
and it's 4 times the actual minimum wage. So this is another example of how the mining industry are actually leading, despite the public
And I suppose
narrative.
mining is also important in the fact that it attracts foreign direct investment, right? That's where probably the most money comes to in
Indeed.
terms of foreign investment. And what is the situation there if you were to dissect the nature of the investments made?
This is where we are not yet out of the woods. I think we have progressively sent messages to international investors that we will probably change the rules. We don't really want your money, or we would like your money, but you aren't really allowed to make a return. Now, of course, South Africa, as mighty as we are in our own eyes, we are but one of many countries in the world. We've got amazing geology. We continue to hear we've got one of the best geological environments in the world. But Zimbabwe is getting more exploration money than South Africa. I mean, Canada, Australia is attracting multiples more money and investment. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we do to the international investors? And immediately the conversation goes to, who need them? We don't need them. They can go somewhere else, and they do. And so I think as an industry, we need to stop bad-mouthing ourselves. We need to get onto the same page. We need to align. And this is what was clearly evident at the Joburg Indaba. The inward conversations is aligned. And now we need to go out with a voice to the rest of the world, say your capital is welcome.
Okay, now, also, it's been a closed shop, if I may complain about it, whatever the discussions that take place within mining. It's known, it's understood by the players in there, as much as the minerals belong to the people of the country. So there's this relationship, a distant relationship that ordinary South Africans have with mining, but also intimate relationship in the case of the role players, the direct stakeholders, whether they be the investors, the operators, and the mine workers themselves, right? So the extent to which we have to appreciate mining, if you were to make a case for it to an ordinary South African, tell me.
Yeah, ultimately, I don't think we as the industry is the most credible to tell the world, look how great we are. I mean, how many of your listeners do you think are going to accept it coming from me? And I can create a platform like we do. I can facilitate the conversation. But ultimately, more and more people need to see real benefits from mining. Now, I don't hear any school subject teaching kids that Joburg is a great city because of mining. Not in my own child's school. So the messaging around mining is very negative.
But here's the point, Bernard. You're right to cite Joburg as an example. It's there. It speaks for itself. Everybody in South Africa wants to be in Joburg, including fellow Africans from the continent. But people ask, in modern times, in recent years, we've seen the rise of platinum in prices and revenues and profits that were earned. But we haven't seen something being created around platinum. Maybe Rustenburg or other towns could have grown, not to the same size of Joburg, but shown that there were investments being made in communities.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I'm not going to try and sit here and say, look at this community, it's a very happy community. I think, obviously, as a mining company, you function within a broader framework. If there's a problem in service delivery in a mining town, I mean, there's no doubt that even the political players point the finger at the mine. In most other towns where there's no mining, you can't really blame Pick n Pay or Checkers for the lack of service delivery. So mining's unique position makes it an easy scapegoat, and I'm not being defensive. I don't think we have covered ourselves in glory in terms of how we make the benefits flow to all. Now, in the past, there have been conversations about integrating into the plans of the municipalities, but you need a functioning municipality to latch onto their plan. In the past, there's been royalties. Very good ministers, like Trevor Manuel and others, jealously took those royalties to the centre and didn't allow it to be distributed at the regional level. So all the instruments that the rest of the world used to create linkages back to the community in South Africa, for policy and other reasons, have not worked. However, having said all of that, this new mining charter imposes on mining companies amazingly challenging targets of local procurement. Now, the detail needs to be fleshed out. I hope local for Rustenburg means Rustenburg, not even the Northwest Province or South Africa. Because if you get that benefit of all the money that gets spent, gets churned locally, you get real benefits. So half of a mine's expenditure often goes to employees, salaries. Yes, it goes back to Pick n Pay and Checkers, and it's good. But a lot of the money flows either to Johannesburg or it flows somewhere else, and that multiplier effect is but one way in which we can certainly address community issues. And then, of course, why would you ship people in from another part of the country to come and work in a mine in any part of the country? So local employment, local procurement. In 10 years from now, if we don't do this a lot smarter, communities will really hate us even more.
Bernard Swanepoel, he grew up in mining. Can you believe it? Not only does he work in mining, but he basically was raised in mining. And we will look at that part of his life story in a moment when we return, and also share your thoughts with us on Twitter, #the Modise Network.